Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dave, and today this short quick video is about refueling my Chinese mini digger. So for those that haven't seen the previous videos, this mini digger is a UHI mini digger. It was bought in Australia from a Sydney dealer, and this is a 1.2 tonne machine. UHI 1.2 or a UME 1.2 is the technical name. And if you have one of these machines or something similar, then on my machine this is the diesel tank here, and on some of the other machines you had to actually, when you filled up, had to take off plates and all sorts of things to get into the filler cap. So this one's not too bad. The tank is here. It's only quite small, it's 10 litres, so you tend to go through it quite quickly if you're doing a larger job. The fuel gauge is a glass guide that's on here, and I have noticed that although it might be quite low, this says that currently there's 4 litres in the tank, that when you start filling it up it seems to fill very quickly, so I don't know whether this is accurate or not. Luckily on the top of this one, you'll see around the edge here there's actually a little, like a spillway enclosure, so if it does overflow it sort of sits in this enclosure and you can mop it up, which is not a bad idea. One thing I have noticed with these machines is when you take the cap off, then everything else comes off separately, and they have this little gauze strainer in here, and this is quite fine. And I've noticed that when I've been filling up from my can, which we'll look at in a minute, that it tends to overflow this quite quickly. The diesel going in doesn't seem to get through the size of the screen in the filter very quickly. But I was going to get rid of this altogether and take it out, but when you actually take it out and have a look at it, you can actually see in the bottom of it, it actually has captured quite a few greeblies. So I think that I will actually keep this in place there and not get rid of it. So I'll just chuck those out, which didn't really work. I might have to give that a bit of a rinse. So I'm going to keep that, as bad as it is when you're filling it up. And what I've been using is just a standard sort of 20 litre yellow diesel tank with a funnel on it. And the trouble is, I find, is when you're trying to fill it, is trying to be able to lift up the container and get it in the hole of the tank all in sort of one move. So this is actually empty now, which is pretty good. I can actually demonstrate it. So when you're trying to lift it up, I mean, it's normally a two-handed operation. You have to sort of get the end of it lined up there somehow and get that going in, and then sort of tip up the container and you can put it in. And you can't really see it filling up that much because of the screen filter in there, and it tends to overflow everywhere. But anyway, I've been using that for the last year or so. Just put that down. And I've used that same tank for the John Deere tractor as well as the excavator. But the purpose of today's video is I have a new toy to play with. This is my new fuel tank, my new diesel tank, courtesy of UHI, and how this one came about. And this was a freebie. And what I was doing with my videos that have been put on my YouTube channel, they had, UHI had a plan, which I don't know if it's still running. By the time you're seeing this, the campaign might have finished, but they had a campaign running on their social media site that if you tagged UHI into your videos, if you were using a UHI digger, then you could redeem that for a prize, and one of the prizes was a fuel tank. So when I was last down at UHI, they said, you know, we've seen your videos, that's great, here's a free diesel tank. So thank you very much, love a freebie. So this tank is in size, it's 14 gallons or 53 litres. It's a moulded plastic tank, similar to what I've seen before on like using it for outboard motors and things like that. It comes on wheels, so you can wheel it around, which is good. because obviously if it's 53 litres in there, it would weigh close to 50 kilos, so that's a fair weight. But when I first got this, I wasn't too sure on how I was going to use it, because I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to lift this up high enough to be able to get the diesel out of the bottom of this hose here. On the bottom you'll see it's got a nice brass stop valve, so you can turn the flow on and off to it, and it's got a whole heap of pipe or tubing, fuel line, so you can run it quite a long way. But I thought, well, how do you get this high enough that the diesel will actually run out? And I was watching a fellow YouTuber's channel, and the penny finally dropped, that this handle is actually a pump, and you can actually pump the diesel out. And I think the comment was that it's quite slow, but at least it's better than trying to lift this thing up high enough for gravity to sort of fill it up. So now I know, I'm all excited to use it. So I think what I'll do on the next exercise is to put it in the back of the truck and go and get some diesel. $2.09.9. That works out in gallons. It's 4.5 litres in a gallon. I'll just put this down on the ground, I think. Works out to be $9.44 a gallon. How expensive is that? $9.44. And diesel prices here have just gone down a little bit. It currently is $2.09 a litre. Just last week it was $2.30 a litre. There we are. So I've put in, what's that? I've put in 40, just over 40 litres, and it was $85.43. Geez, you wouldn't want to put 50 litres in. Bloody hell. Anyway, that's all good. I only put just over 40 litres in it. It does take 53, but at the end of the day you've got to lift it in or out of a vehicle. Actually, I'm thinking probably what the best thing would have been to just leave it in the back tray or on the tailgate and then fill it up, and then I would have only had to lift it from sort of there to there. Or if I could actually do it in there, I could fill it up all the way, but you still got to lift it out. But anyway, I only put 40 litres in because I don't use a lot of diesel. I'll put some in the mini digger, and then I'll put some in the John Deere tractor, and then I'll still have probably 20 litres or something left, so all good. The only thing I don't like is exactly this. When you're moving around, the hose comes off and you end up dragging the nozzle and it gets full of dirt. So that's not a great idea. And the other suggestion I probably would have made is to do it in yellow rather than red, because all my red fuel containers have just normal petrol, gasoline in it, and yellow would have been good to make it stand out as being diesel. Right, I'll just open the vent up a bit. So with 40 litres, I think it's coming up to about there somewhere. It's not going to come out of there. And now I know that this is actually a pump. Let's start pumping and see what we have. Oh yeah, it's not all that smooth, I've got to say, but it is pumping it out. It's going very frothy, so I don't know how much it's actually pumping per pump. What's my gauge say? Gauge says just about 6 litres, so that's not too bad. So it seems to pump on when you let the handle go, it seems to pump out. So I don't think I'd like to fill like a 60 litre tank with it. But that's alright, let's see how much we've got now. It says I've got 10 litres. I'll put some more in the John Deere tractor. So on this 2025, the fuel gauge is actually down here, and I've got about half a tank, but I can put a little bit more in. So we do the same thing. Vent is open. So I'm going to try the same, but I'm actually going to use 2 hands to do it. Yeah, it is slow. Well, I am impressed with my new diesel Caddy. It certainly makes the job a little bit easier. It certainly is a lot less spill. When I was filling up my tank on the excavator here, I would usually end up with diesel all over the floor and running down the side. When I was using my older 20 litre drum here with the spout connected on it, just a bit tricky to get in the spot. So certainly that's a big plus. The handle or the pump takes quite a few pumps to get the diesel coming out in any great volume. On the digger it didn't seem that bad, but when I was filling the tractor up, that's got like a 25 litre tank on it, it seemed to be quite tiring, and I had to sort of swap hands quite often. And the handle is just a little bit further out than my fingers, so it's quite a bit stretched to actually get your hand around it, but the system works. I mentioned before the colour. I would have preferred it if they were in a yellow colour and not a red colour, because usually all my regular gasoline petrol containers are red. Also, the hose tended to keep coming off this thing here, and when I was towing it around between the different equipment, the hose kept coming off and dragging this on the ground, which I didn't think was such a great idea. But certainly I think the overall idea of it works well. It's a lot cleaner, a lot less mess than using a jerry can. So I do like it. For the people that sort of are outside of Australia, in the US and Europe, you may have seen these a lot, and I've noticed that these are for sale on Tractor Supply, and Amazon have them as well. I think US dollars are about $140, $145, something like that. But I haven't seen a lot of these in Australia, and when I went and had a look, I could only actually find one Australian website that actually was selling these, and I think they were about 285 Australian dollars. I'll put the link in the description so you can have a look at that one if you're interested in buying a tank like this. Overall, I think it's done the job. It's worth having in the workshop, and from me, I think I'll give it a big thumbs up. Okay, thanks for watching. I appreciate all your support. I'll see you next time.